Good evening, live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. Here we present to you tonight's news bulletin. But first, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a written message to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum relating to the bilateral relations binding the two countries. The COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to close all commercial activities from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting from next Thursday for 2 weeks, and school students continue to receive education in government schools through distance learning from next Sunday for 1 week. Ministry of Finance signs an agreement to implement the National Program for Leadership Development and Future Foresight with the University of Arizona, USA and the Institute of Public Administration. And the Ministry of Health starts to expand on the vaccination of the targeted categories with the Pfizer-BioNTech and Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine in various governorates of the Sultanate. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a written message to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President of the United Arab Emirates, Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, relating to bilateral relations that bind the two countries. The message was handed over by His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Hilal Al Busaidi, Ambassador of the Sultanate to the United Arab Emirates, when he was received by His Highness today. During the meeting, they conveyed the greetings and best wishes of His Majesty the Sultan to His Highness of good health and happiness, and for the people of United Arab Emirates further progress and prosperity. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq received a cabal of thanks from the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud of Saudi Arabia, in reply to a cabal of condolences sent by His Majesty the Sultan on the death of Her Highness Princess Dana bint Abdullah bin Turki bin Abdul Aziz bin Turki Al Saud. His Majesty the Sultan also received a cabal of thanks from His Excellency President Xi Jinping of China in reply to a cabal of greetings sent by His Majesty the Sultan on the occasion of the Chinese Lunar New Year. His Majesty the Sultan received a similar cabal from His Excellency Miguel Diaz-Canel, President of the State and Council of Ministers of Cuba, in reply to a cabal of greetings sent by His Majesty the Sultan on his country's National Day. And His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a cabal of greetings to His Excellency President Milorad Dodik, Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, on the occasion of his country's National Day. Assigned by His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, His Excellency Dr. Abdullah bin Nasser Al Harrasi, Minister of Information, will preside over the final match of His Majesty the Sultan Cup of Hockey 2020 in the presence of His Highness Sayyidi Yazin bin Haytham bin Tariq, Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth. The final match will be held this evening between Ahli Sidab and Bosher. In the semi-final match, Ahli Sidab qualified against Sib with a score of 6-3, while Bosher won against Sohar with a goal. Now, the Supreme Committee dealing with COVID-19 developments held a meeting this morning headed by His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of the Interior, with the presence of their Highnesses and Excellencies members of the committee and the General Diwan of the Ministry of Interior. During the meeting, the committee reviewed the epidemiological situation of COVID-19 on the international level, where a number of countries are witnessing a sharp increase in the number of COVID-19 fatalities due to the rapid spread of the new strain. On the domestic level, the analysis of the epidemiological data clarified that the number of the hospitalized individuals is rising all over the Sultanate. The data also revealed an alarming increase in the cases related to traveling within the global spread of the virus. The data further showed confirmed cases of infections of the new strain of the virus in various governorates of the Sultanate. To protect the individuals and the members of the community from further spread of the COVID-19, the Supreme Committee dealing with COVID-19 developments decided to close all commercial activities in all governorates of the Sultanate from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting from Thursday, 4th of March 2021. The closure will include restaurants and cafe shops inside touristic institutions, in addition to home delivery services, including excluding fuel stations, health institutions, and pharmacies. The committee decided that the school students will continue to receive education in government schools through distance learning from Sunday, 7th of March until Thursday, 11th of March 2021. During this period, the developments in the pandemic situation in schools will be evaluated. The COVID-19 committee calls on all to take extreme levels of caution to prevent or to protect themselves and their families, including the community. It also stresses on avoiding holding of all types of gatherings that are proved to be the cause of spreading the pandemic on a wide level. May Allah keep everyone safe, inshallah. Brotherly relations binding the Sultanate and Tunisia were reviewed by His Excellency General Sultan bin Mohammed al-Nomani, Minister of Royal Office, when he received His Excellency Azzeddin Al-Taisi, Ambassador of Tunisia to the Sultanate. During the meeting, the two sides reviewed a number of joint cooperation spheres and means of enhancing them, which serve the joint interest of the two countries. They also discussed a number of issues with mutual concerns. The Executive Office of the Coordinating Committee for Private Higher Education Institutions and University Presidents discussed during its meeting today the strategic plan of the Ministry of Higher Education, Scientific Research and Innovation 2040. During the meeting, the empowerment of private universities to achieve advanced ranks in international rankings and grants from private higher education institutions, in addition to the Ministry's procedures regarding results of institutional accreditation from the Omani Authority for Academic Accreditation and Quality Assurance, were discussed. The Minister of Finance signed an agreement to implement the National Program for Leadership Development and Future Foresight with the University of Arizona, United States of America, and Institute of Public Administrations. More details in the following report.
The National Program for Leadership Development and Future Foresight, which will be implemented by the Institute of Public Administration and the University of Arizona, is one of the Partnership for Development Program offset projects that is supervised by the Ministry of Finance. The delivery of this program will be funded by Lenco Company as per its commitment towards the Partnership for Development Program offset.
I'm really glad to announce today that we have signed with the University of Arizona a partnership agreement where they will be training the mid-management officials in the Sultanate of Oman. It will be a very important initiative that comes under the other initiatives that the Institute of Public Administration is working on.
The program, which will be held over 3 years at the Institute of Public Administration, aims to uplift government performance through building the capacity of leadership of various government units and provide them with managerial and leadership skills needed for policy making and efficiently achieving KPIs.
The partnership is extremely important to both of us. We are already working with the Omani government on a number of projects, but this one has special significance in that it allows for the government of Oman to have an opportunity to develop the next generation of leaders. Leaders who can tackle the big question, the big challenges that exist in the world, from climate change to social change to new technologies that are changing the way in which we engage and interact with one another.
During the program delivery period, the University of Arizona will train 150 targeted employees from various government units conduct short courses for 80 persons from the higher management levels, transfer the intellectual property rights of the program to the Institute of Public Administration, and enroll 15 trainees in the Advanced Government Leadership Program to be conducted at the University of Arizona's campus. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh Mukhalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
The Ministry of Health started to expand on the vaccination of the targeted categories with the Pfizer-BioNTech and Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, while pointing out that the time period between first and the second doses will be 10 weeks. This expansion in the distribution of vaccine comes within the framework of the daily increase in the number of COVID-19 cases and fatalities. It's worth mentioning that following the precautionary measures is the best way to keep everyone safe in the community from further spread of COVID-19. In the meantime, the Ministry of Health announced that the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate reached 141,808, while the total number of deaths reached to 1,577. The total recovered cases reached 132,685, which is 94% of the total recovery rate. The ministry indicated that the total number of inpatients reached 198, among which 66 are in the intensive care units. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. A meteor burns brightly in night sky in the United Kingdom. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The National Committee to Combat Human Trafficking launched a campaign entitled Insan and dubbed as Human Being under the patronage of Nasser Khamis Sawai, Attorney General and Deputy Chairman of the committee, together with several their excellencies, ambassadors and undersecretaries. Sawai highlights achievements of the committee, including entry into the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, removing NOC allocation of the shelter for victims awareness and training programs, and creation of a national team for quick intervention. The campaign will continue until May 31st, 2021 and will include various advertising and media awareness activities. A dialogue between GCC countries and European Union on energy reduction and transformation, according to the work paper presented by European Union GCC Clean Energy Technology Network, topped discussions of the third meeting of the GCC European Parliamentary Committee, which was held via video conferencing. The meeting discussed the topic of cooperation between the GCC and the European countries. The meeting witnessed participation of His Excellency Sheikh Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Nadabi, Secretary General of Shura Council. The National Records and Archives Authority signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Directorate of National Identity Documents at the Republic of Mauritania in the field of historical documentation. More details in the following report.
Within its endeavors to accomplish an integrated system of cooperation with institutions at the local and international level, the National Records and Archives Authority signed a Memorandum of Understanding in the field of historical documentation and management of records and archives with the National Records of Mauritania during the official visit of the Mauritanian delegate to the Sultanate.
Signing this memorandum today here in National Records Archives Authority stems from the outstanding relations between the Sultanate of Oman and the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, as well as the desire of both countries to enhance and develop the cooperation in the fields of archives and documents.
The MOU comprised of a set of items, the most prominent of which are encouraging cooperation in the field of copying records, printing and exchanging manuscripts and books, and preserving and maintaining documentary records and accompanying technologies.
The MOU mainly aims to exchange experts as well as documents in all its types, exchanging training courses, research, and whatever related to the fields of archives management.
The Mauritanian delegate aims to benefit from the Omani experience in the field of documentation and building records management system, in addition to the electronic document and records management project run by the authority. The memorandum comes within the framework of partnership between the two countries to preserve the antique history of the records and archives, which constitute an important source for the national memory. صالح مخلفان الرحبي, Sultanate of Oman Television, Muscat.
Thank you, Saleh. There, Her Excellency Janine Hannis, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Iraq and head of the United Nations Assistant Mission for Iraq, praised the Sultanate's commitment to peaceful dialogue and diplomatic endeavors in solving regional and international issues, as well as its distinguished partnership through various roles in supporting the United Nations efforts to achieve international peace and stability. It came during her visit to the National Defense College, NDC, to give a lecture within the framework of the general curricula for the 8th batch of the NDC. During the lecture, the United Nations official highlighted the key regional and international issues and reviewed some of the United Nations charters and their roles in maintaining international peace and security. A flash of bright light lit up the United Kingdom last night as a meteor was spotted flying through the clear night skies. Stargazers were left amazed by the phenomenon, which was described as a fireball by the UK Meteor Network. Dozens of people reported sightings of the meteor, with videos being shared across social media. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq sends a written message to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum relating to the bilateral relations binding the two countries. COVID-19 Supreme Committee decides to close all commercial activities from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting from next Thursday for 2 weeks. And school students continue to receive education in government schools through distance learning from next Sunday for 1 week. The Minister of Finance signs an agreement to implement the National Program for Leadership Development and Future Foresight with the University of Arizona, United States of America and Institute of Public Administration. And the Ministry of Health starts to expand on the vaccination of the targeted categories with the Pfizer-BioNTech and Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccines in various governorates of the Sultanate. And here, before we conclude, here is a reminder from our news desk. As the coronavirus cases continue to increase, we all should aggressively follow the preventive measures. The chain of our society is only as strong as the weakest link in that chain. And if one link is weaker because of ignoring these precautionary measures, then it goes without saying that our society as a whole will be dangerously and lethally compromised. So let's all of us be vigilant and strictly follow the prescribed preventive measures to prevent the second wave. From all of us here in the newsroom and the studio, we wish you a very good night and safe and healthy. Good night.